to rule them all, wandering to find them, wandering to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. On today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the Diamond Select Lord of the Rings Build-A-Figure of Sauron. And here we have the figure, technically not straight out of the box, because this figure, of course, does not come included in a box. He comes included in multiple boxes, technically, because you have to build them, collecting all the Diamond Select Lord of the Rings figures. The first wave was Gimli, included the helmet or head of Sauron. Legolas had the right arm and right leg of Sauron. Then I believe the second wave was Frodo and the Nazgul. The Nazgul had the hips of Sauron. Frodo had the torso with the pauldron pieces and the cape and the little clip that holds the cape in place. Then the third wave was Aragorn and the Moria orc. The orc came with the mace, and Aragorn came with the left arm and left leg. So we have to collect all these figures in order to build Sauron himself. He's listed as a 13-inch figure, but we'll get into the size and details, of course, but I think he's a bit shorter than 13-inch, actually. I believe he's about 12 inches. We'll talk about that later, but this guy is just huge. He can barely fit into my filming display, as you can see, but I think it's kind of worth collecting him with the other figures because there's not many Sauron figures out there that have this much presence to them. You can have a bunch of Sauron statues, but they cost a fortune. And if you want to build all these figures, get all the Build-A-Figure pieces, build a figure, and then maybe you can sell the figures loose or, you know, without the Build-A-Figure pieces online. And you don't really have to pay that much money then. Well, technically, if you sell them all for the retail, then you just get Sauron for free, but okay, whatever. Talking about the figure, he is really good. He does have some trouble standing as well. We'll get into that as well. I really like the cape. They went with a soft goods cape, which is really nice. And the pauldrons also have a bit of a trouble falling off sometimes. And building this figure together is actually a bit of a pain. The most trouble I had was actually putting on the legs. I suggest you try some hot water to soften up the plastic before putting them together. That way it's going to be a bit easier. The hip and the torso was also a bit hard, and my rotating display just kind of stopped for some reason, but we're going to continue anyway. I don't know what just happened, maybe the batteries died. And then the arms were pretty easy to put together. But one thing that I suggest you do is actually take off the pauldrons whilst putting the arms together, because it's probably going to fall off. Then the head was also pretty easy. So now let's get into the accessory part. As for his accessory, he comes with his mace. But of course, you could say that the Moria orc comes with the mace, and you can then put it in his head or something. Let's take a look at it. I'll actually just use my hand because it's a really heavy mace. So it has a really nice engravings in it, as you can see. Look at these really intricate details. And it has a nice wash to it as well. I assume it's been sculpted in this dark gray, and then they applied some additional like silver washing or something on it. Looks really nice. It's a little bit bent, as you can see. Not a lot, but a tiny bit. You can just probably fix that with some hot water as well. I always liked how the head of the mace kind of resembles Sauron's head as well, with all the big spikes and everything. The pommel has some really small, intricate, spiky things coming out of it. It's a really nice mace. Really spiky as well, so be careful with it. As for putting it in his hand, you can really just put it in his left hand, because his right hand is, you know, it's kind of loose. He only has the ring and the little finger that could hold it. So I suggest you put it in the left one. And you could pry it open, but that's going to be really hard and the fingers are really prickly, so you might hurt yourself. I suggest you just kind of push it down from here and kind of just wedge it in there. As you can see, it's starting to, see? I'm not going to go farther because, you know, if you could just push it down and be there, but we're going to get into the details first, so I'm going to get it out kind of easier. As you can see, it works like that. Right, oh, and one of the pauldrons fell off. We'll get into that as well in a minute. And now, let's get into the details of the figure. This guy is so huge that he doesn't even fit into the studio. Let's start with the head. This figure also has, this looks like it has some silver wash to it or something. The head is really nice. This piece could be a bit bent depending on the packaging. I actually kind of reshaped it a little bit using hot water, but it's still a tiny bit bent. I really like these huge spikes. These are also really prickly, so be careful when you actually put the head on. Don't, you know, push it like this. You have to just kind of push it from here. I really like that it kind of resembles like a skull of a deer or something. Helmet is really menacing and evil looking. And these pauldrons, again, really prickly. It's kind of hard to hold this guy because he just has spikes everywhere. These pauldrons come off really easy. They do have pack holes, so I should just, you know, when you put the arms in, you just take these off. It's going to be way easier. When you plug them on, they're kind of snug. They're not going to fall off or anything, but when you move the arms, we'll get into that in the articulation part. You're going to hinder it a little bit. Let's look at the cape, actually. It's a really nice black fabric. From the top to about half of the cape, it's actually really nice and puffy. It's really thick material. You can't see through it, but when you're going down, it actually gets a lot thinner. You can somewhat see through it, which I don't really like, but it has some really nice lining, and it drips nicely on his body, and you know, it looks like the one in the movies. We don't get to see Sauron that much, but I think this kind of looks about the same. And there's this little clip that actually holds it in place. And here's the back of the helmet, if you wanted to see that. Then, looking at the torso, the chest, really nice is some sculpting work here. This is somewhat movable, actually. Let's look at the arms. He looks really evil. Spikes everywhere. And as you can see, he does have the one ring, but I actually wanted to have like an alternative right hand. That's kind of like the one, you know, the left hand. And there's actually some missed paint applications. The gold that they used for the ring kind of just got on the thumb here, but it's all right. You can't really see it. Yeah, so I kind of wish there was an alternative right hand that didn't have the one ring on it, but it's, again, not a huge deal. Just noticed that with these things, he kind of looks like Batman, you know, with the little spikes on the arms. And I just noticed something else. Is this intentional, or it looks like I actually had this the wrong way? This was like this, but I think you have to have it like this. Yeah, all this time I had it backwards. So again, he just has plating armor everywhere on his body. There's not a he always seemed in the movies, he just seemed like, you know, evil himself. There's not any skin exposed. He doesn't even seem alive. He just looks like a possessed armor or something. Again, spikes going down here as well. Here's the back. This is supposed to be chainmail, and it's actually nicely sculpted. It does resemble chainmail quite well. And he does actually have some trouble standing up because, as you can see, this is movie accurate, by the way. You know, the boots kind of going up. I don't like it. You could shape it with really hot water if you want, you know, kind of push it down. But as you can see, you have to kind of have him lean forward a little bit. Otherwise, he will have trouble standing up. I actually use a display stand with him usually, because if this guy falls down from your shelf, it's gonna be really loud and he might even break with all these really not very soft spiky parts. So I suggest actually using some kind of display stand to help him stand. Now let's get into the articulation. Articulation wise, well, again, these things just came off, but it's all right because I actually wanted to remove one in order to show you the arm articulation. The head is on a ball joint, so it can rotate all the way around. You can look up this much. I'll actually just do this. It's a bit easier. Can look up this much, look down this much. But there's no side-to-side movement whatsoever. The arms go out this much when you don't have the pauldron on. They're on a hinge. They rotate. Really squeaky toy. Rotate all the way around. Single jointed elbow goes about this much. This kind of armor piece hinders it a bit. It doesn't go even 90 degrees, but with Sauron I can kind of, you know, let it go. His left hand has I think it has a vertical hinge, yeah, for, you know, holding his mace, and also swivel. His left hand is on a horizontal hinge, so you can pull off like an evil ring showing pose. He does have some decent torso articulation. He can move back this much, move forward this much, which is, for Sauron, that's insane. You know, he probably has to have some ab crunch in order to look down on the mortal figures. But with the pauldron on, he doesn't really go. If you want to move more up, the shoulder piece will just kind of come off. And if you want to have him, see, it falls off like that. But you can peg it back if you want. You could also just glue them down if you want. That's an option as well. And they do have indication of, you know, this is the left one, and this is the, where is it? This is the right one. Oh, like this. See? I'll actually put these back. Which way was it? It's like this, I believe. Maybe. Okay, and then this one is like this. Yeah. Got it back. Or is it the other way around? I'm honestly not sure. No, okay, it was like that. Okay, just kind of weird. Because these things kind of look kind of weird. Moving on. These big armor pieces hinder the articulation of the legs a lot, but yeah, he cannot do a full split. He goes about this much. And then legs go forward practically just almost nothing, because these things hinder it again a lot. Goes back a little bit further, this much. Yeah, this guy is, you know, not the best in terms of articulation. Single joint on the knees. Oh my god, that sound. Goes about this much, which is pretty nice. I forgot to mention there's also a swivel here on the elbow. The feet are on a hinge and a pivot, goes up this much, which is pretty nice, and goes down this much, and then rocker side to side movement. And now let's get into the size and comparisons. And size wise, Sauron to the top of the head seems to be standing at 27 centimeters, which is 10.6 inches, and to the very top of the spikes, he's about 30, maybe 31 centimeters, which is not 13 inches, which they advertise. It's more like 12 inches in height. Here he is standing next to the Diamond Select Lord of the Rings Gimli and Legolas from the same line. Here he is standing next to the Diamond Select Lord of the Rings Frodo and the Nazgul. And Frodo must be really scared now. He looks tiny compared to Sauron, which is pretty accurate. And here he is, standing next to a can of Coca-Cola as always. And my final thoughts on this figure. I think the sheer presence that this guy has when he's standing on your shelf is just worth collecting all the figures. Even if you just, you could collect all the other figures, you have all the Build-A-Figure pieces, and you can probably sell Sauron as a, on eBay for just you could just have all the money back from collecting all the figures. But why would you want that? This guy's so cool. And as I've said before, there's not many Sauron figures to go around. This one is probably the best option if you don't want to buy $1,000 Sauron statue that doesn't even fit on your shelf because it's too heavy and too big. This guy actually has some decent articulation as well. The sculpting and the paint applications are really, really nice. One thing is that maybe he could have been a bit taller. He's, again, advertised as being 13 inches tall. And as I've seen, as we have seen, it's not actually 13 inches, it's more like 12 inches. Not that it really matters, 1 inch isn't going to make a difference. That's what she said. But, and again, my rotating display stand just died. I don't know what's wrong with it. I will have to change the batteries. Sorry about that. We'll see. Okay, it turned on again. It has some troubles. We'll change the batteries for the next review. I'm sorry. I wish that he came with maybe an alternative right hand in one of the figures. And also wish that he maybe came with other accessories. Maybe like a flame effect for his mace or something like that. Okay, we'll just do it like this. And I'm really interested to see what Diamond Select does with the Lord of the Rings license. I really want to see maybe a Witch King figure. If they could maybe make like the next Lord of the Rings wave, building a Witch King figure, that would be really nice. I also want to see maybe Sam, Boromir, and the other Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring members as well. Excuse me for this display stand, I'm sorry. But this was my review on the Diamond Select Lord of the Rings Build-A-Figure Sauron. If you liked the video, consider leaving a like. If you didn't like the video, consider leaving a dislike. That's an option for you as well. If you like what I'm doing, consider subscribing to my channel. If you think I missed anything, leave a comment down below. And it was me, the collector, and I'll see you later.